Hello and welcome back to TREKLove, a podcast where we talk about Star Trek and all the ways that it promotes love and acceptance of all people. Today we are going to talk about Measure of a Man. This is an iconic The Next Generation episode. It centers around Data, and he is ordered to serve Commander Bruce Maddox. And if you ask me, I don't really think this was much of a command or serving, because this is kind of the ultimate sacrifice if you think about it. But we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about it. So let's discuss. Um, so the episode comes upon us with Picard narrating, and he says that the ship, the Enterprise, is coming into Starbase 173 for crew rotation and just routine things. And it moves to show us one of the really well-known TNG poker scenes. And there's kind of some back and forth banter between Data and Riker. And I feel like Data in that moment really learned something about bluffing, because Data, he's always innocent. He doesn't understand the subtle nuance of things, if you know what I mean. So he doesn't quite get bluffing. Bless him. So I feel like he kind of learned something in that moment. And then shortly after, Picard meets with Louvois. I hope I said that right. And we meet Commander Maddox, sort of informally, because they're in what I imagine is the Starbase's version of 10 Forward. So they're kind of like in the bar, you can order food, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And the Admiral says that he would like to see the Enterprise, and they kind of go on a tour, and they end up on the bridge, and Data is there. And they finally tell us why Maddox is there. And the Admiral says it's because he wants to work, that he's there to work on your android. Like, he kind of just says it like it's nothing, like callously. And I was like, oh, that hurts me. Like, Data's so sweet. Don't talk about him like that. And so once they kind of introduce Maddox to everybody on the bridge, or, they get past this part, Data, like, Picard realizes that Data has this sort of spark of recognition of Maddox. And he's like, do you know him? And Data lays this on us, that he is the only person that was on the committee that opposed Data entering Starfleet Academy, which I kind of think is messed up, because, like, even if he's an android, he kind of has to, like, don't you have to do the thing. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you have to do your part. Like, so you don't want him to go to school, man. Like, that's messed up. I'm sorry. But really, like, that's awful. I just feel like that's so awful and terrible. He just really doesn't think much at all of Data. He just thinks he's like bolts and screws, like just garbage. Just garbage. It's kind of sickening the way that he regards Data. And so, we get to this point, and literally right here in my notes, like, they say why he's there, like exactly why he's there. He's like, I'm going to disassemble Data. Literally in my notes it says, I'm going to disassemble Data, fuck you, in all caps. That's what it says in my notes. And what gets me is he's going to disassemble Data to see how he works. And this is like, yes, he's an android, but like, he talks. He doesn't, like, maybe he doesn't have blood, but like, he has relationships, he has friends, like, he has people that are impacted by his presence. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, how are you going to disassemble him if you may not be able to put him back together? Like, that's horrible. You're just going to take his life away? That's just terrible, man. That's awful and so sad. And sort of when these two things happen, you can see like that passion light up in Picard, and you kind of know that he's gonna take up this cause, and he really starts advocating for Data, and he goes to meet with Lavoie, And Data is going to be like judged whether he is or is not like Starfleet property, and that's going to be like highly what's the word, like pivotal to the outcome of like, can he make his own decisions. So he's really, really advocating because Picard wants Data to be considered like sentient so he can continue with his Starfleet career. Because number one, I mean, Data should be able to, if he wants to stay in Starfleet, he should be able to. He shouldn't be like forced out just because he doesn't want to be like killed. Excuse me for saying like the K word, but like killed, and it's just Louvois is like taking all this in, and she's like, all this passion over a machine. And that kind of like, that really got me because, like, again, he has people, Data has people that are impacted by his presence. He has friends, like, especially Geordi. Geordi is like his best friend. And like, he would just be so sad if this were to happen to Data. So the next part that I thought was pretty impactful was when Data was in his quarters and he was packing a bag to go with Commander Maddox, unfortunately, because he told him, he was like, well, you, either way, you pack a bag because you are coming with me one way or another. And I was like, that's like, that's like small speak for I'm gonna kill you. That's what he said. That's basically what he said. But anyway, I'm just being silly. But the next part that I thought was really like kind of poignant was when Data was in his quarters and he was looking at the portrait of Tasha, and that's personal, and he packs it away and he gets his medals, and then he goes in the next room, and then that's when Maddox comes in and he starts like going through his stuff, and like, it's so like violating, which it's obviously it's meant to be, but it just it's so violating, and I just really feel bad for Data. And like, obviously this is a show, I'm not taking this like seriously, this is a show, but like, just think about this, just fathom, because there are actual people that have had to be in situations such as this, maybe not similarly where they would have to maybe necessarily give their lives away, but like where they live with invasive people, things like that. That's all I'm trying to say before I need to quit before I trip on my words. But that's all I'm trying to say. It's just, Star Trek makes you think. So when different situations happen, you can expand on it from what the initial meaning might be. So when Maddox is going through Data's things, he picks up a book. And I didn't realize until later that this was the book that Picard gave Data. And then it was even more like, oh, like gross, like violating. And he reads the quote that I guess Picard had written inside the book and given to Data, and he's like, is it just words to you? Is it just words? And I'm like, just go around insulting like regular people too? Like, is that how you operate? You just go around being mean to everybody? So they're back on the starbase, Picard and Maddox and Lavoie, and they're debating like about what to do. And there's going to be like a trial or whatever, but like, Maddox is really frustrated. He's like, I'm tired of this. Like, this is property. He's Starfleet property. And he's like, would you allow the Enterprise computer to refuse a refit? Like, he asked that. And which I see where he's coming from, but it's just a different question. Like, I literally looked up the definition of sentient. Like, here, I'll get my phone out again. I'll get my phone out and like, let's do this because I just forget. So they're back on the starbase. Picard and Lavoir and Maddox, and they're kind of debating this. Like, there's definitely going to be the trial or whatever, but Maddox he's just getting frustrated. He's like, Data is Starfleet property, like it Starfleet property. Rah, 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 rah. Like, he's just going on about that. He's really like frustrated that his work is just ground to a halt. Like, he just really wants to get in there and just take him apart. Rah, do it. He's really serious about this. And he's like, would you allow the Enterprise computer to refuse a refit? Which I see where he's coming from, but honestly, it's not the same thing because, let me see. I literally looked up the definition of sentient. Like, here, let me, my phone's right here. Let me just look this up. Sentient. Able to perceive or feel things. That's what sentient means. Like, sometimes, even though like I know what things mean, I like to look up the actual definition just to kind of reinforce, because sometimes you'll find like another definition, the more you know. But anyway, the Enterprise computer doesn't feel or perceive things the same way that Data would. So it's not the same thing. And like, they're really hardcore, like they're arguing about this, and Picard like uses the emotional appeal from the beginning of the episode, where Lavoir had like kind of a sticky run-in before with the law, because she's all about like the law. And he references that, and he's like, I really hope you will give this your all. And I was like, you dirty dog. So as they're discussing this, there's another really poignant moment that I could not help but talk about. And it's when Picard, he's like, then I shall challenge, convene your hearing. He's like, he's so authoritative. And that's what really got me, is that this is so early. Measure of a Man is so early in the TNG run. It's season 2, episode 9, if I am correct. Yes. Yeah. Season 2, episode 9. And he's already like really coming into his command self. That's kind of what I call it. Like, because every captain kind of has like a different way that they command, and he's really kind of coming into his command self already in season 2. And I was like, get some and surprising was Lavoir assigned Riker to prosecute, and that means that he's going to be on the other side, basically reinforcing like what Maddox is saying, that like Data is a machine and like Starfleet property, and we want to take him apart and gar gar gar. So like, and Riker's like, I don't want to do that. This is my friend. I will not do that. Are you kidding me? And then Lavoir, she's like, okay, I will summarily rule. And I will be like, he is Starfleet property. Go to Maddox and be like, I basically just, what is that? I'm trying to think of the word. Just disassembled. Yeah, disassembled, and that be it. That's all she wrote. And then Riker's like, oh, I get it. I have no choice but to do this. And he's like, okay. And then Lavoir, she's a hard ass. She's like, if I feel that you're not like giving this 100% and you're not like doing a good job, I will do that, and we'll just go that way anyway. And I'm like, oh. So this is like really the emotional turning point of the episode. Like, this is really, it's getting tense, man. Like, And so Data, he cannot resign. It's ruled that he cannot resign. It's just, I kind of found that upsetting, because it's like, he's trapped in this situation. It's like, what is he supposed to do? He's just supposed to, his life is just supposed to be over. That's not fair. What if he has so much more that he could do in Starfleet? It's crazy. So he can't resign. Every Starfleet officer can resign. Are you kidding me? What? So, and then Picard, He's like, okay, I will represent you. And I really thought that was like so sweet. He kind of like is taking Data under his wing. He's like, I'm going to put this to rest, the question of your legal status, like your personhood. That's kind of what I came to think of it as. Like, is Data a person? Because he should be able to make his own decisions about his own life. Like the very basic, everybody should be able to make those decisions. You know what I mean? One of the moments that I thought was kind of incredible was when Maddox was like, rights, rights. What about my rights to not have my work be subverted? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like he literally does not care about Data like at all. He doesn't care at all. So Riker is doing his job, being the prosecution, and he says there is one issue and one relevant piece of evidence, and that is Lieutenant Commander Data. And I was like, oh man, he's really leaning into that Maddox position, like from Commander Maddox's opinions. I was like, he really just went for it, which I mean, he had to, but I was like, damn. And when Data got up to the chair, the verification process, it reminded me of TOS like a lot. I thought that was really cool. Um, this whole little scene was really awesome because there's like a Webster's dictionary shout out from the 24th century and all kinds of stuff like that. This scene was it's hard to watch at some points, but it's really cool. Like I do like it. There are some really cool things that you can compare from the future, and then just the moral levity, the moral questions that you're faced with in this scene that make you question yourself. And Riker, he's doing a good job. He has to, but like he's doing it. And I'm like, oh, this is hard to watch because that's his friend. It's his friend. Um, and one of the parts that I thought was really hard, he did a little experiment where he asked Data to bend a par steel rod, which no big deal, and of course it worked. Like Data bent it, but then the next little thing he had him do was he asked if he could remove his like hand, and he didn't just remove his hand; he removed like his whole like forearm. I was like, oh my gosh, that is not what you asked for. That's not what you asked for, dude. Oh my god. Oh, like that was crazy. And then just when you think it's not going to get any crazier, Riker's like walking around and he's pressing his case how Data's a machine and he's Starfleet property and he should be given to Maddox to be done with what he will. He says Pinocchio's had his strength cut, and he turns Data off with his switch, and I was like, oh, it's just it's so striking. It's so final. Like it reinforces the point that he is a machine, but it's almost like he died right there just for a second. Like it's crazy. Crazy. So after this is over, Picard is talking to Guinan and he's like, Riker, that was a lot. Riker almost convinced me. And again, he's talking to Guinan, and Guinan really lays the perspective down like she always does, and it comes to be apparent that Starfleet or Commander Maddox wants to create like a whole race of like Datas to like just do the bidding of Starfleet, and it begs the question is like how would they treat them? It's like, yes, maybe they are machines, like Picard said, we don't deny that, but they still do have like basic rights. You shouldn't treat them like garbage. They're not disposable people, like Guinan was saying in this conversation that I'm talking about. Um, I hadn't picked up on that before. I never really did. Watching TNG now is like a whole different thing because I spent a lot of time with it when I was a kid, and so like the heavy moral questions, really now I'm just like now understanding what they mean because like I'm 28. If anyone nobody knows, I'm 28, and I used to watch like after school when I was a kid on the weekends and stuff like that, and so rewatching now is like a whole new world. That's what I always say is a whole new world. And it's just like I'm enjoying it in a way I never had before. And then I'm learning things. And then I always say Star Trek makes you question yourself because there are some episodes that will make you just like that they'll just absolutely blow your mind. And this sort of is one of them. Like it's not like a blow out of the water blow your mind, but it's a really this is a good episode. So yeah, now it's Picard's turn. And Picard said, "Isn't that becoming a race? And won't we be judged on how we treat that race?" And he gets in Maddox's face, Commander Maddox's face, and he's like, he's met two of your three criteria for sentience. Like, what if he meets the next one? What will he be then? Do you know? Because I don't know. Do you? And then he turns around, he looks at Riker, and he's like, "Do you?" And then he looks at Lavoie, and he's like, "Do you?" And he's like, that's the question we have to answer. And he says, one day this man or others like him will succeed in creating more commander datas, or other things, other beings like Data. I'm sorry, I said things, excuse me. Other beings like Data. And uh the decision that is made today will determine how we regard this creation of our genius. And I was like, oh, that's so like poignant. Like that's so like profound because it's true. Whatever becomes of this decision that they make for Data is kind of like a benchmark. It can kind of be used for it can kind of be used for it can be used to make other decisions, so they don't have to go through this whole process all over for every android that comes through, you know. And this trial scene was just really really good, and Picard was really at his best form, if I may say so myself, because he was with the Spock would have been proud. I tell you what, he was with the logic, and he was just serving everybody, man. Like, whew, whew. And then next is when he delivers if you've seen this episode or you've seen like different that you might have be familiar with this, he delivers that really iconic Starfleet was founded to seek out new life. Well, there it sits, and he's like really, oh, he just totally that line is there's nothing that needs to be said. That is new life. Data is the new life, one of them that Starfleet set out to find and create. And and it's like, are you really going to destroy that just because you want to tinker? I can't help but stumble over that. It's just a TV show. Again, like it's just a TV show. Like, I'll be fine. It's not that serious. But like, think about that. Just think about that. And one last thing that Picard says, he looks at Louvois and he says, "You wanted to make law? Well, here you go. Make a good one." And I was like, "Oh, that's serious, boyo." Like, and I think, especially after that, I don't think she would want to make a decision that would leave anyone wondering if it was the right one or not. You know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Like, she didn't want there to be any question with her ruling. And one of the things I did like that she said is there were two things, of course. The second one isn't, of course, but the first thing that I really liked that she said was that these questions that she was given were questions that were best left to saints and philosophers. I'm like, really? She's just like a Starfleet like lawyer. Like, what is this? She's probably like, this is outside my pay grade, guys. Like, what? What? But I like that she said that, and then I was honestly, I kind of was surprised that she came to the ruling that she did, which was that Data should be able to choose, and that he isn't Starfleet property, and that he doesn't have to go with Maddox. I kind of was shocked. That's the rule. That's the ruling that I wanted her to give, obviously, but I kind of was shocked just because. I mean, I didn't think that she would do what Picard wanted just because that's what he told her to do. If can you follow that? Does that make sense? I didn't think she would do that just because he told her to do it. But like also that's what I wanted her to do too. But just the ending is really good. The ending is really good, and poor Riker, he's torn up at the end. He's torn up. He's like, I almost got you killed. I almost got you killed. Blah, blah. And Data, he's just ever so gracious, and he's like, you saved me. She would have ruled summarily if you had refused. And Riker's like, whoa, that's true. But this episode is one of my favorites. I have wanted to do a podcast about this episode since actually, do you guys want to know a fact? This is the episode of Star Trek, all of Star Trek, that I had in mind when I wanted to create a podcast, especially when I came up with the TREKLove idea. This is the one. This is the one episode. Like, this is the one I wanted to start with. Obviously, I went in other directions, but this is the episode that I have always wanted to cover. I hope I did it justice. I really do. My video quality is like not the best. I'm sorry. Ooh, I hate to be that person, but like, it's not the best. Like, hey, we're here, we're having fun. We're talking Trek. Yeah, that's what matters. Mama, can you do the finger thing? Like, if I'm on the audio only, I'm doing the finger thing. Can you do it with me? Hold your hand up. Yeah. Um, but yeah, this is one of my all-time favorite episodes of Trek. Hands down, all-time favorite episodes of Trek. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend that you go out and watch it. It is season 2, episode 9 of Star Trek The Next Generation, The Measure of a Man. It talks about some really deep moral issues, and if you can kind of think in an abstract manner, you can apply them to things that have happened in real life. But yeah, thank you for tuning in. I hope you've really enjoyed this. I kind of have taken some time off due to just life issues. I got overwhelmed, kind of just got overwhelmed with stuff. So I kind of just put things to the side. But I'm back now. I'm doing some stuff. Let's have some fun. Yeah, this was fun. I really enjoyed this, and I hope that wherever and whenever you're watching that you enjoyed this too. Okay? So live long and prosper, my buds.